all, welcome. Welcome to the Cabrillo Unified School Board Governing Board meeting, September 14th, 2017. The Governing Board met in closed session from 6:01 to 6:57 p.m. and took the following action. Under Student Matters, the Governing Board voted 4-0 to exempt Pilarcitos Continuation High School Student A from compulsory attendance. This student has successfully passed the California High School Proficiency Examination and would like to attend community college. Thank you. Welcome to the Governing Board meeting. We now have the Pledge of Allegiance, and Samia Eastbrat has volunteered to come lead us. Would you like to come up? Just face the flag. You can stand here. Yeah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Samia.
Great job.
Okay, that takes us to item 7, adoption of the agenda as presented. Do I have a motion to adopt? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 4+1. Thank you. It takes us to, we have no items under student staff community recognition, so it takes us to item 9, comments from the public related to items not on the agenda. Just a real quick note on this item. We love to hear from the public on any item that you would like to come and speak to us about. We are unfortunately prohibited under California state law from responding to or discussing any item that is not on our agenda. This is done so that if anybody else wanted to have the opportunity to present something or to discuss on that item, they would have had notice that it was going to be discussed tonight. So we really appreciate any comments you can bring. We want to let you know why we would not be able to discuss that and follow through about that tonight. So I have 2 green cards. Are there any other green sheets? Would people like to speak on this issue? No? Seeing none, I would like to ask Colleen, is it Harvey? Henny, to come on up.
This is my first board meeting, so.
Welcome.
We have to get it, hold on. Let me get up here a little bit. We gotta get a microphone on here. Does this one? No, I haven't. We have a whole, it's been very thank you, apologize. As I say, it's been very thank you. So I'm all right. Go. No? No?
It works.
Yeah? Hello? No, it doesn't work until this thing turns red.
Look at that.
You
really
got it.
Cold fingers, I don't know.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Colleen Henny, and I have a 6th grade son and an 8th grade daughter at Cunha. The first week of school, my daughter was chased down on campus by both the principal and vice principal and told that her ripped jeans were inappropriate for school attire. Ripped jeans are not in the current school dress code. Just an FYI, these girls, are just developing their bodies to have overly detailed and open to interpretation dress codes are teaching girls that they should be ashamed of their bodies and that the manner in which the administration of the school is interpreting and enforcing this dress code is communicating to all students that girls' bodies are distracting and that the girls are not safe unless they cover their bodies in specific ways. I did speak with the vice principal about my concerns. I was told the administration's concern is with the girls' safety. Not only do I find this perspective absolutely outrageous, but this dress code is a violation rights issue for civil rights for the students and may open the school to certain liabilities under Title IX. To suggest that the girls would be unsafe, it is precisely at this time that we should be teaching boys as well as girls about self-control and respect for others. Sexual assault on our college campuses is at an all-time high, and it has absolutely nothing to do with what the girls are wearing. I would like to propose, as the city of Portland, Oregon has, a super simple dress code: no clothing promoting profanity, racism, or drugs, and private body parts be covered. I would also like to propose more open dialogue, not only regarding hormone changes at these ages, but that no means no, no matter what, and other programs promoting radical respect for all genders, races, sexual orientation, and cultures. In this way, creating a truly safe environment for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Samia, would you like to come up? Welcome. Thank you so much for coming and speaking to us tonight.
Sorry, 1 second.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
I really feel that I should be able to express my style and clothes that I wear. I believe it is an important part of self-identity for my age group. We wear our clothes how we express our own self as a person. Like later on, people will become business people and they'll dress formally, but at this age, we need to be able to build up self-encouragement by our clothes.
When we were in first period doing math, the principal came in and he saw one of our friends, and she was wearing kind of like a rip, but not very big. And he just coded her and he said, "That's not appropriate, you're showing too much skin." And he made her go out of the classroom and interrupt a PE class to go change into her PE clothes. And then later on that day, one of my other friends was wearing ripped jeans too, and he didn't dress code her because he said, "I understand because it's hot. Like, I understand that you're wearing ripped jeans because it's hot, but I don't."
Well, for this, when he came inside the classroom to dress code someone and not even escort her, tell her to go and interrupt, that's taking more class time out of our lives. We could be learning something new. Instead, we're being taken out of class because of our style. Okay. I know the dress code has not changed for the last year or so, but I believe a new administration is much harder on us this year. We should be able to change it. It's a really old dress code, and even the principal has said that. So, yeah.
And I feel like when boys wear shorts, I feel like it's a little bit of kind of sexist because girls, when they wear shorts, they say like you're showing too much skin or you shouldn't be showing that much. And when boys wear shorts, like maybe to here, they don't get dress coded because I guess it's not distracting.
Yeah. And then we have a teacher who told us we need 200 signatures, so we got more than 200 signatures from the people at school if you guys need these. And do you guys want us to say what we'd like to change, or is that good?
I think I'd like to allow you to keep going. It's 3 minutes per comment, but there are 2 of you, so go ahead and finish what you'd like to say, please.
Okay, so one of them is I would like to form a committee to redress the dress code and update it to something that the students and staff both agree with. And then, while I don't agree with kids wearing heels and flip-flops to school, I believe open-toed shoes or sandals should be okay. It should not be banned because of fear that toes will get stepped on. I don't think there have been many emergencies rooms visits for that. If we wear sandals, we are not allowed to because they think we're going to get stepped on, but we could still get stepped on with tennis shoes. So if they're too scared, they don't have to wear the kind of shoes.
I believe that we should be able to express ourselves and and wear ripped jeans. I do agree with like not too high because it could show undergarments, but I think it should be okay to wear like ripped jeans in the mid-thigh.
Yeah, and the same thing with shorts, like not very high, but like mid-thigh. We're not allowed to wear those because it's showing too much skin. And I have had some requests from boys that they want to wear ripped jeans too. So, yeah, I think that's it. Thank you for your time. And would you like the signatures or no?
Absolutely, I would.
Please, thank you. Thank you so much for coming to the board and for your bravery and getting up here and speaking and representing your fellow students. This is definitely an issue that has been around for a while and will probably continue, and I commend you on requesting a committee and working with your principal and your assistant principal. So I look forward to hearing how that process goes. Would love it if you could come back to the board and let us know how that happens at the site to address your issues. So thank you so much for coming and for your bravery and coming and speaking to us. We really appreciate it.
Moves us to items 10, representative reports, CUTA.
Kathy?
Good evening, governing board members, Superintendent Euster, and senior admin staff, and Cesar Saravia, who was my kindergarten student many years ago. I'm so happy to see you here. I'm Kathleen Wall, representing the Cabrillo Unified Teachers Association. Our president, Sean Reardon, is attending back to school night for his son tonight, and he couldn't be here this evening. And I couldn't remember if CUTA was represented at the August meeting, so I looked it up on the online minutes, and according to the minutes, thank you, Patty, we were not here. Sean was in Peru, and I was out with my nieces feeding the sheep and the goats who were grazing about out there. So since we weren't here, let me take this opportunity to say welcome back to school. As a kindergarten teacher, I know that today was the 18th day of school. I want Patty to put that in the minutes. The students and teachers are getting to know each other, and we're getting into the groove of things. CUTA would like to welcome and thank the new principals in the district. Ms. Jean, I'm going to say your last name wrong, Kuznick, Mr. Seth Feldman of Cunha, and Mr. David Porcel of Hatch. How do you like working in a small town? Really fun, huh? CUTA would also like to thank John Nazar, James Barnes, Tiffany Zamet of Half Moon Bay High School, Cesar, Martha, and Raj, and Diane for coming back and being site admins. It's a tough job. It's often thankless, and we thank you for your dedication. We'd also like to thank our classified comrades. We strive to work together in solidarity to make school a great place for all our kids. And a big thank you to the community for supporting the renovations at Pilarcitos and Hatch, and hopefully Barrel on View and El Granada soon. The buildings are really beautiful. Personally, I love the light blue walls and the colorful furniture. I hope that people go by and see it. Cesar, you need to go see it. Come by and see me. I'm still in a portable, but I love walking through the new buildings. We'd also like to thank Jane for working with us to make Cabrillo a good place to work, and I think we're making it better and better. Thanks to the governing board for representing the community and working with us to make the schools great. It's much appreciated. And finally, what we really appreciate and love is being with our preschool through young adult students who give a lot of meaning to our jobs and make our days fun. The teachers are looking forward to a great school year. So thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. It takes us to CSEA representative. Diane, welcome.
Good evening, President McCavitt, Superintendent Euster, and fellow board members. CSEA is happy to report that we have many new employees in our unit, and we're very happy to have received our raise. And we've had our first CSEA union meeting, which was not attended very well, but I would hope that future meetings will be attended better. Other than that, I hope you all had a restful summer, and we can move forward in a new school year, hopefully with less problems. Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Great, thank you, Diane. That brings us to items 11, reports, information, and presentation. 11A, receive report on Cabrillo Unified School District Summer Intervention Program. Welcome, Joy.
Thank you, President McCammon, trustees of the board. I will be bringing up my presentation here behind you, so you can get comfortable as you'd like. Last September, I was a new assistant superintendent, and one of my first presentations to the board was on summer interventions of 2016. And at the end of my presentation, one of the questions was, when are you going to start planning for summer 2017? And I believe the response that I remember that I said was tomorrow. And really, the truth is that we start planning before summer school starts, and even during summer school, we're already thinking of the next year. How is this program that we're doing right now going to be sustainable, not just this year, but next year? What are the pieces of the implementation as we're gearing up to summer school? How can we do those pieces better next year? So already we do have a lot of ideas about how to improve even for summer school 2018. But today we're focusing on what happened June and July of 2017. At the end of the presentation last year, one of the pieces that I brought up was that we felt that our student ratios, particularly in our Big Lift program, went really well. We had great parent engagement and collaboration across the departments. In looking at this year, the 2017 implementation, some of the things that we were thinking about was starting to plan early, having more targeted curriculum, and continuing with robust assessments. So with that, I'll talk to you a little bit about what our summer intervention programs were for this year. In the spring, I gave a brief presentation on what we were planning on doing, and one of the metaphors that I used was that summer intervention is a little bit like a pop-up restaurant or a pop-up shop, because it's not there and then all of a sudden one day you open up a school. Our El Granada Elementary program had 297 students. To give you an idea of how many students that is, that's about the size of Fair Lawn View, a little bit short of, maybe one class short of how large Fair Lawn View is. Half Moon Bay High School had a total of 175 students that participated in the program throughout the summer. In total, that's 472 students overall, which is about the size of El Granada School. So it really is a huge effort to bring people together, administrators with staffs that haven't worked together, students who don't go to school together normally, and everyone working in buildings that they may not be used to, in order for us to take the unique opportunity that summer school is, which is an opportunity to provide very focused interventions for specific target groups of students. Without thinking about all of the many things that we deal with, we just pick one thing that we want to work on with each group. So this year, the one thing that we worked on with each of these groups includes Big Lift, which really focused on K2, and I'll tell you more about that. That's funded by Big Lift as well as the Cabrillo Education Foundation. And we had our intervention programs for 3rd through 5th grade, which were funded through the Local Control Accountability Plan, as well as our site plans for student achievement. We had the Migrant Program, special ed programs that are both funded out of those programs. Jumpstart Reclassification, which was funded out of our Local Control Accountability Plan. Credit Recovery and Special Education, again, being funded out of special education. Credit recovery was also funded out of our local control accountability plan. Specifically with Big Lift Inspiring Summers, we had 48 rising kindergartners, 63 rising first graders, and 51 rising second graders. Due to funding, we wanted to make sure that we included all students who participated in the past, so we had more limited enrollment in kindergarten. That's why our kindergarten numbers are smaller there compared to the later years, because we wanted to make sure that we included all students from past years. The criteria was open, so it had open registration, although there were income guidelines. For a family of 4, that was about $89,000 a year. The priority was to former Big Lift Inspiring Summer scholars. The curriculum that we used was from the Bell program as well as the Scholastic program that was embedded within the Building Educated Leaders for Life program. And the assessments that we used were the STAR assessments. And I know that when I think about STAR assessments, I think of CSTs, the California Standardized Tests assessments, but this is actually an age-appropriate computer adaptive assessment that's for primary students. And the assessment results that we've gotten back so far said that 61% of our students showed improvement on the post-test. The assessment results go directly to Big Lift, and they're doing a much larger analysis across all the districts, and that's going to be broken down more specifically with each of the age groups, and they'll be sharing that data with us in October. We also had an elementary intervention program that had students across our elementary sites in 3rd through 5th grade who participated. The criteria for this was really focusing on English language arts, specifically students who are reading about 3 to 6 months below grade level. These are students who, with a little bit of help over the summer, we hope will be able to catch up or at least be very, very close and not have that summer loss of not having strong literacy. Our priority were our at-risk student populations, who we sometimes also call unduplicated populations in local control accountability. Those include our English learners, socioeconomic disadvantaged students, foster youth, and homeless students. The curriculum that we used this year was very strong up the ladder, which is through Teachers College for English language arts. And then we used some scholastic curriculum for math. Our emphasis was more on English language arts than on math. Our assessments that we used was Fontes and Pinnell, and as you may recall last year, one of the problems with the Fontes and Pinnell assessment is that it's the measuring stick of one level of Fontes and Pinnell is 3 months, and the assessments are long. One of the challenges of last year's summer school was that they did a beginning and post and pre-assessment within summer school, and we felt like that was not a strong use of instructional time. So this year what we're doing is we're using our May scores and our September scores and using that as our benchmark so that we know that they're already being assessed, and we're using that as our benchmark time so that the assessments aren't actually happening during summer school. We'll have that data at the end of the month, but we don't have it prepared for this presentation. Another program that we had, which is a returning program from last year, is our Migrant Program that worked specifically with 15 rising 5th grade students. These are students who were identified through the Migrant Program that are not yet meeting grade level standards in English language arts. These are students who probably wouldn't have fit into the 3 to 6 month target range for our traditional programs for the other 5th grade students. Similarly, they used Up the Ladder for English language arts and U Cubed, which is really about the growth mindset in mathematics and helping to support students to gain that confidence in problem solving in math. Again, the assessments that we're using to assess are Fontes and Pinnell, which will have complete data at the end of the month. Our special education program that I'm sharing here is both the elementary as well as the secondary programs. We had 20 students in pre-K through 5th grade, and we had 18 students in our 6th through 12th grade programs. The criteria and goal is set forth in our goals and services that are identified through our individualized education program process for each student. The curriculum is individualized, the outcomes are also individualized per the IEPs. A new program that we've talked about is our Jumpstart Reclassification program. And as I was talking about, one of the benefits of having summer school is that it allows us to have a very targeted goal for a very small specific group of students. with one focused outcome. Jumpstart Reclassification was started with a purpose of finding those students who were on the brink of reclassification but have not yet been reclassified. Students were selected by being English learners with a CELT score, meaning the California English Language Development Test score of level 4 or 5, so they were proficient on this score, but they maybe haven't gotten the CASP score, the state test score, to have them be reclassified yet. So they participated in a very rigorous, intensive program using understanding language. As part of the program, they also did a lot of analysis of primary sources, and of our total of 42 students who participated, 27 students were reclassified after completing the summer course. This is perhaps of all the programs that we did this summer, it's the newest program that we've started, and I love it, and this is the one that of all programs I want to see how we can really expand, partially because I think it's so powerful for these students to actually start the new year having a new status and not having to wait to take the CELT test again and wait for another CASP score and possibly wait another year. Instantaneously after completing this course, their course schedules actually changed this year, which is a significant impact on those 27 students. Credit recovery is a little bit different this year, partially because of our learnings from last year. What we noticed is that we had a lot of students who participated in credit recovery. We also noticed that there's students who need to still complete their A to G coursework in order to qualify for UCs and Cal State universities. So we opened up the enrollment for our credit recovery this year to include students who not only had to complete credits for graduation, but also who may have taken a D, who may have gotten a D in a class that was an A through G class and need to have at least a C minus in order to get the credit to be UC or CSU proficient. We had 130 students and 113 students who were enrolled, 75 received grades. I have here 2 students with an A through G focus, but since this was prepared, we found that there was actually 7 students who participated who didn't need credit recovery, but actually were doing it so that they could get credit for an A through G course. The total number of A through G courses that were completed was 41, which is really great for our first year of actually trying to open up our focus beyond just credit recovery, but also including the A through G piece. We had 2 students who graduated this summer because they participated in credit recovery. They were able to recuperate the credits that they were deficient and actually graduate after their time in our credit recovery class. The curriculum we used was Compass Learning, which is a computer differentiated, personalized learning system for students. And as I always include somewhere in my presentation, we always want to return to our strategic education plan. And as you heard the work that we've been doing, the programs that we have really focus on literacy and reclassification. Jumpstart Reclassification, the Jumpstart Reclassification program was really targeted for the purpose of reclassifying students who are really close. Both our Big Lift programs as well as our intervention programs and our migrant programs are also working toward reclassification and literacy. Our A through G courses that were available as well as our credit recovery help support students to be college and career ready. It also helps to support our graduation rate and our access to A through G. Family engagement, while we didn't speak about the specifics of that, we continued the work that we did last year in integrating families in the activities, especially with the Big Lift program. And even with our Jumpstart Reclassification program, we had family meetings before the start of the program so that families could really understand the purpose of the program because it was new. In looking at next year, we are continuing to be committed to the goals that we have in our strategic education plan. We want to continue the successes that we've had, including early planning, and we want to continue to work on some of the logistics because as it is a pop-up operation every summer, there are sometimes some things that don't go so smoothly. That's a constant issue that we need to continue to work on every single year. In terms of programs, as we're looking at the data now that it's coming in, I think that some of the ideas that I have about next year are to really think about how we can improve that A through G access coursework for even more students, to think about how to support those students who weren't successful in completing the credit recovery, even when given the opportunity through Compass, to think about how we can expand our Jumpstart reclassification program and ensure success for the students who do participate in it. And then also to look at the challenges that we see ahead with Big Lift funding, because we know that as there's changes in federal funding, our Big Lift funding is becoming less predictable, and so we need to start thinking about how we're going to continue to provide those resources for our youngest students during the summertime. So thank you. Do you have any questions?
Thank you for a very clear presentation. I'm certainly delighted to see the progress. Incrementally, this was a big jump, I think, this year in the success of these programs, and I'm just thrilled that this is going on in this district. So thank you for that. With respect to the A to G, so I have a concern about the credit recovery process. Obviously, kids are in school for 180 days to gain a certain degree of knowledge, and the credit recovery program critically shortens that. It gets them over a hurdle so they can pass a class. But what objective data is out there that helps us understand whether this little bit of an assist to meet criteria, if there's any, what it presents as an obstacle further down the road should they go to college? And these are A to G requirements, which are prerequisites for more rigorous courses. And is it sufficient for them to be successful in their further studies? And do we really know that? I mean, not from our data, but from the data at large. How well do we know that?
There are many questions that I am thinking about just as I listen to you. I know that we are beginning to look at where our students are going after they graduate from here or after they move on from being here. Superintendent Euster might have more to add about that. And as she's moving, I will let her
I
begin.
think that one of the concerns is sort of the backsliding or whatever. Mm-hmm. Just, that, I passed it. Mm-hmm. But then when you go to college and the teacher's expecting that you know this, and you maybe know some of it or a lot of it, hopefully, but
So the summer work that takes place, it is the same course with the same standards applied. Think of it as if you're at university and you go take a summer class. It's a shorter time frame, but all standards are identical. It's just pushed into these aren't shortened classes. These carry all the same requirements to come out, and I keep turning towards you because I want to talk to you, and I have a microphone here. I'm sorry, in the audience, this is like schizophrenia, and I'd like to talk to you as well. These are not watered down. They are at full requirement, otherwise they would not be acceptable to the UC-CSU systems. So the academic rigor of them is there. And in fact, I am absolutely, totally impressed with kids that can buckle it down and really go at this curriculum in that level. It's also why we have credentialed teachers around to support them, to make sure that this takes place. So in terms of the A to Gs, there is no water down. They can't flunk these. They can't get a D. It's C and up. So there is no difference in criteria when you're in a summer. It's just and some kids like that. They don't want to be sitting there all semester long. Give it to me in 6 weeks. I'm going to put an intensive effort in and get out of here. What you don't get on the difference between the summer and the regular curriculum is that because it's very short, so there isn't a lot of the extra discussions and the interactions that often happen in the class. It's right to the heart of the matter, but it is still at full rigor. There's no rigor loss in these. Otherwise, the UC system wouldn't take it.
I think another thing to add is that some of these students who are going back in for the A to G focus, even though they've already mastered their credits or they've gotten enough credits, is that The difference between a graduation requirement and the A through G requirement is that you have to have a C- or above for an A through G class. So some of these students actually took the class in a regular setting, and because they had a D, and they all did, correct? So they all actually took a class in the regular setting. And because they had a D in it, then they're taking it again so that they can get the C- to get that access to A to G. So it is a second time for the students. I think that this graduation access and A to G access is increasingly important for the county level, even as they're starting to look at data, and some of the conversations that I've participated in at the county level are about these same questions that we have. How are we ensuring that our students, all students, have access to this? And I think that that's why I don't look at our credit recovery and A through G course access as a finished product. If you look at it, there was 113 students enrolled and 75 received grades. So we still have students who are participating but not being able to get those credits necessary or the grades necessary in that setting. So we need to continue to think about how can we provide even better access for all of those students.
Two questions. First, great, thank you so much. I think I really get the impression this is a really high-value set of programs and a phenomenal operational achievement of basically kicking up a pop-up school the size of El Granada in 2 different sites and putting it back down in a couple months. It's really amazing, so thank you for all the hard work that entails. 2 questions, one related to the elementary intervention, which is for those students that are more than 6 months behind, that are not migrants, how do we capture those?
So we have a lot of different ways at the elementary that we're able to do that during the school year, whether it's through our reading intervention programs that are provided through our local control accountability plan, or our strategic education plan, but also specifically the funding out of the local control accountability plan, as well as the differentiated instruction that happens for students in the regular classrooms at the site level, so that they're not all using the same book necessarily, but able to access content and literature at their reading level.
That makes sense. Okay, and then my second question is with regards to the Jumpstart program. For those that didn't get reclassified, what does the follow-up look like for them typically when they get to 6th grade? I mean, I guess it's not typically because this is our first year doing it, but.
Yeah, this is our first year.
I figured you'd probably catch up on it. What has been, or what are the plans for
What would be
follow-up?
the
Like
plans?
counseling or like because I would wonder what the root cause of, even with this program that was obviously successful, 60-some-odd%, or how are we what are the root causes for them still being behind, and how are we addressing them?
So I think that it's part of our ongoing conversation. Last year, we did a lot of our data work in the admin leadership teams around our reclassification. So students who haven't been reclassified yet, identifying students who haven't been reclassified and understanding why. And sometimes it's really just because they haven't had a test that qualifies. So the CASP test wasn't given between 8th grade and 11th grade. So what's the qualifying data that we're using? So how are we using other types of data to be able to identify students? So we've actually had a very large number of students who got reclassified in the past year, but that continuous data work we do not only for the students who participated in the Jumpstart reclassification class, but also for all the students in our district. Specifically for Jumpstart reclassification, it's for students going in from 6th through 12th grade. So we are going to continue to take a look at those students as we do all of our English learners, especially our long-term English learners, to identify ways that we can support them throughout the school year.
Thank you.
Joy, thank you for the presentation. It must have felt good to do it after you've actually been here for a year versus doing it last year when you were just beginning. But we really appreciate all of your effort in pulling together the summer program. And it's been wonderful in this district that since I've been on the board and we've had all sorts of state cuts, and that our district has been able to continue to provide summer school. So I'm glad that we're continuing that tradition. I had just one quick question about the reclassification. And you said that these folks, the kids, were prevented previously because of some CASP scores. So did you do a different test then at the end of this program? Because they were still 4 or 5 for the SELT score. What other data did you use to make sure that they could be reclassified?
That's a good question. I think, is Irene? She is. Irene is here, so Irene, do you feel like you could speak to that question? We used, as we call it, local data, meaning that we were able to provide an alternative, but I'm going to invite Irene here to just give a little bit more specifics on that.
Welcome, Irene. Sorry to put you on the spot.
So I just wanted to add that we actually had 2 students who were not meeting the 4 and 5, so you can add the number to 29.
Okay.
But they were recommended by both the families and the school, so we allowed them to go into the class. In terms of the criteria that was used was teacher recommendation. Teachers recommended blindly based on the performance during the summer classes. So we looked at the performance on the pre and post assessment, and we also looked at the attendance. So they had to have at least 85% attendance. We looked at the performance. Once the teachers made the recommendation, then I followed up and looked at their data, their SBAC, reading assessment, and their previous grades.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate it. Any further questions or comments? Okay. Thank you so much, Joy. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Brings us to item 11B, another presentation, receives the 2016-2017 Unaudited Actuals Financial Report. Welcome, Crystal.
Okay, good, we are working. Good evening. Tonight I am presenting the Unaudited Actuals, which if you're not familiar with this report, it's the report that's given after the books are closed, so you can kind of think of it as filing your taxes for the year. So it's definitely not the funnest report that there is. So during an entire fiscal year, often you operate in both fiscal years depending on what financials you're reporting. So in June, you were brought the estimated actuals, which is where we thought we would finish for last year, which was 16-17, and then also the adopted budget for 17-18. So in September, we actually just get to focus on the unaudited actuals, which was 16-17, which is what I'm presenting tonight. And then as we move into the winter, we will be presenting the audit report for 16-17 while we are presenting the first interim budget for 17-18. So tonight we're going to do a quick overview of the general fund actual summary for the revenue, the expenditures. We're going to look at the fund balance and our reserves, and then briefly look at other funds. So when we talk about the revenue, we have 4 different sources of revenue. We have our LCFF sources, which is mainly your state aid, your property taxes, and the unrestricted, that's where our LCAP funding sits. And then on the restricted side, that 1.6 is mainly our SPED funding, and that's all of our state funding. Our federal, that 36 is just a small amount. A lot of it is based on interest. And then that restricted, there is our title funds, our migrant programs, and some of those other specialty funds that also helped pay for some of our summer schools. Our other state, that 1.2, is our state lottery. So a portion of the lottery funds that are generated for school districts are unrestricted and restricted. So in the other state, under the unrestricted side, there's lottery, and then there's also lottery on the restricted side. In other state, for unrestricted is also our one-time monies, which accounted for about $683,000 for last year. And then the mandated block grant, which was just a little over $118,000. So for this year, right now in the budget for 17-18, we do not have one-time funding, but we did get word that we are able to add it in at first interim, and it looks like it's going to be about $170 per ADA. 170 times 3,200. Really? That's rough. Okay. And then the other state, we have more SPED funding and our specialty funding, which is like our education effectiveness and some of our other funding for professional development that sits under the restricted side. Other local for unrestricted, is basically some of our unrestricted local donations that come in. It's kind of a pass through our retirement benefits for people that still stay on. It just all gets captured under revenue, but a lot of times it's actually not true revenue that we can use that's actually over and above or for a certain program. And then the restricted side for other local, that's where our parcel tax sits, which is about 1.6 million. And then that's where our PTOs, boosters, foundations, and all the generosity of the community sit. So you can see that that's a pretty large number, just hitting slightly under 3 million. So that makes up our revenue side, which accounts for about just under 36 million in revenues. So to give you kind of a different look at that, you can see that the majority of our revenue is LCFF, slightly federal. Again, our parcel tax, which is about 4% of our overall revenue, which I think is really important and really essential for the overall health of the district financially. So when we look at our expenditures, we have certificated salaries, classified salaries and benefits, books and supplies, services, and other outgo, which is basically the charge of doing business with the county. The certificated salaries, well actually the salaries and benefits overall came in a little bit higher than what was projected at second interim. Books and supplies came in a little lower, but that's mainly because we moved some of the adoptions for 16-17 to 17-18, so those expenditures will just get booked into 17-18. And overall our services came in a little lower. So we actually finished this year, 16-17, better than what was projected at second interim. So overall expenditures was about 34.5 million. So kind of give you a little different aerial view. You can see how much is actually spent on salaries, and then when you add in the benefits, and then you have our services, books and supplies, and then our other outgo. So you can see that, you know, more than 80% is spent on salaries and benefits, which is fairly common for school districts. When we look at our fund balances and our reserves, you don't really capture what your reserve is in a percentage at the end of the year, but I know that that's always very valid information, especially as we move forward into the new year and develop our spending habits and patterns. So last year we look like we're going to be finishing slightly above 11%. So that's good. At second interim we were like at 10.5, so it's about 1% higher. But we will need that 11% to help pay, obviously, for the new salary schedules, the raises that we have for CUTA and CSEA, as well as help with the STRS and the PERS increases over the next couple of years.
Chris, if I may just call something out and comment on it is, you know, with revenues at 35.7 and expenditures at 34.5 and the parcel tax being almost 3, we could balance the budget without parcel tax and the contribution from the community.
Correct. We would not. Yeah, we would, when we go back to, when we look at that other local and we look at that 3 million that comes in from parcel tax and for our community, we couldn't do 75% of what we do now. It would be nearly impossible for us to do. And as the cost of just operating a school district, just the basic local cost of operations increase over the next years, we're going to feel that tightness again, very similar to what we did when we were basic aid a couple years before the governor had this, you know, because again, we're only going back to 07-08, right?
Yep.
And nothing that we're spending today costs the same that it did in 07-08.
I just want to call it the criticality and thank you both.
Absolutely, it's essential. When we look at just a quick summary of the other funds, so we have several other funds that often get ignored.
We have adult ed, which is a growing program here on the coast side and just gaining in success and attendance. And it's very excited to see these revenues and these expenditures. A lot of action going on in adult ed, which is nice. We're still trying to pay a lot of attention to the cafeteria fund. It still needs some help. It's still an encroachment on the general fund. So we really need to address that, especially as the times get tighter, to find out how we can provide a successful food service program without encroachment on the general fund. Deferred maintenance is there. I'm still kind of flip-flopping on whether I'm going to use it or not. So right now it's just interest of $221 that I left sitting in there, so I don't forget about that fund. And then we have our bond and construction fund of 21. So we can see all this action in there, and all that action you see is Pillarcitos and Hatch and the track and the gym, and really exciting things going on there. And then our capital facilities fund, which tends to not get a lot of action either. We were actually able to spend some money out of there on Pillarcitos, so that also maximized the stretching of our dollars for the bond and construction for Pillarcitos. So we were actually able to use about $1.3 million out of the capital facilities fund for Pillarcitos. And you can still see when you look under the revenues for Fund 25, the 533, there's still lots of growth going on in this coast, and we continue to take in money. So probably within a year we're going to have to go out for another study so that we can really look at our enrollment and with this growth on the coast side where we can actually spend some of those developer fees.
Could you clarify what the math is on that? That's a construction fee
for added square footage. So the point of it is that if you build livable square footage that a family could move in with kids that the district would have to service. So this is supposed to offset some of those costs. So that's why it also can only be used on capital facilities. So you don't get charged on non-livable space, so hallways, decks, stuff like that, garages get avoided. So we were able to finally tap into that. Still take in revenue of $500,000. So that's already up and coming. Any questions? It's the least exciting since it's like the taxes. So
just want to say thank you, Crystal, and just you mentioned it briefly, but want to reiterate 2 points. Both emphasizing Rob's point of a huge thank you to our community, both from our bond, our parcel tax, and our donations that we get every year from our PTOs and CEF and our booster organizations that we couldn't be doing what we're doing now without them. So we really, really appreciate this community. The other comment is that as we look to the years to come and we look to our rising costs in healthcare, PERS and STIRS, our benefits required from the state, and then we look at the fact that there might be a recession, and we look at the fact that we're not even yet back to 2007, 2008 funding levels from the state. We just really need to remember that and realize that the state is not adequately funding education, and we need to make sure that all of the things that we're doing locally can continue as well. So a big thank you, but also a plea for future years in terms of what will happen with state funding. So, thank you, Crystal.
That brings us to item 11C.
So good evening. This is our second annual State of the District Address, and it is the address for 2017. So tonight we're going to talk about the state of this district. And as we do, I want to ask you to please consider how well are we doing in making our students' dreams come true? Because boiling us down to the very essence of what we do, this is what we do, is we assist students in their dreams, in their aspirations. Tiny mouse where it doesn't belong. Sorry. So this presentation is not filled with data, though you will certainly hear some. Instead, I'd like you to focus on the story of our district, where we've been, where we're going, and how we will help students to achieve their dreams. We know we are succeeding. What is with this mic? We know we are succeeding for most of our students because most of them are going on to the college, universities, and post-secondary education that they desire. Some are the very first in their families to be able to move on to post-secondary education. But we are not succeeding for all of our students. Some of our students are not able to realize their dreams, and some are even struggling to find dreams. So tonight, we're going to talk about what we are doing right, what is allowing our students to reach their dreams, and what steps the district needs to take in order that all of our students make their dreams come true. So let's start here with our Half Moon Bay High School graduating class of 2017. This remarkable class is a very interesting case study in the efficacy of this district's educational system. More than 80% of these students have been with us since kindergarten. That is remarkable. It's also very unusual, as many districts are not unified as we are, and kids leave in 8th and then go to a new district for 9 through 12. Or many districts across the state have very high transient rates. However, we do not, and so therefore it is very good for us to study our graduating seniors to see how well the district has done. So let's look at these kids. 91% of them are pursuing some form of post-secondary education. 59% of them completed the University of California's A to G requirements. Our graduates are attending some of the finest post-secondary institutions in this nation, including Stanford, the University of Pennsylvania, Brown, and we are well represented at all of the University of California campuses across this fine state. Looking at a climate survey, we also know that 76% of these 12th graders feel like they belong at their high school, and 82% felt that they have been well respected by their peers. More than 85% of these kids are involved in some form of either sports or extracurricular activity. These are great statistics. But do we have room to do better? Yes. Not all of these students were able to take post-secondary education, and not all of them were able to even attend when they were eligible to go. Throughout this presentation, you will hear steps that the district is taking to ensure that all of our students have these great opportunities. I'd also like to present to you the class of 2017 from Pilarcitos High School, the second high school in our district. The students who attend Pilarcitos, which is known as an alternative high school, just for some reason don't fit at Half Moon Bay High School. They receive specialized counseling and programs and interventions designed to assist them in continuing forward on their dreams and aspiration. And I'm very proud to tell you that 2017, we graduated the largest number of students ever from Pilarcitos High School. So let's move to the other side and let's have a look at our little ones. This is our class of 2030. Wow. So what are we going to do to help these little ones achieve their dreams? What does the district have waiting for them to make sure that no matter which way or how they want to pursue their dreams and aspirations, that we're there for them?
So we're going to continue as part of this presentation to talk about what programs are there to help these little ones along the way. And boy, are they cute. So who are we? The kindergartners entering this district are really unique. They are coming into a rural, small-town district that is only miles away from suburban and urban districts. They come to us with very different life experiences than our neighbors over the hill. And they stay with us, as you saw, much longer. Currently, the district has 330 employees, and we serve 3,250 students in 7 schools. Hatch, El Granada, Fairlawn View, and Kings Mountain are the elementary schools. Cunha is our intermediate school, and Half Moon Bay and Pilarcitos are our high schools. We're big. We have an attendance area of 135 square miles. We are the second largest geographic district in this county, second only to La Honda Pescadero. So we do face some of the challenges that have to do with schools in rural districts. We are diverse. As you can see, 51% of our students are Hispanic or Latino, 41% are white, and then the others are divided between 2 or more races, Filipino, Asian, and flat out other. On top of that, 45% of our students are eligible for free and reduced lunch, and approximately 27% of our students are English learners. We are future-oriented. We are so grateful to our community for Measure S, the $81 million construction bond, which was passed in 2012. And we have accomplished a lot with that money. First, on the top left is Pilarcitos High School, the brand new buildings which were opened last year to house our alternative high school, and La Costa, our adult school in the evening. On the top right is the event center, now located, or not now located, but located on the Cunha Intermediate campus. That was a joint project between the Boys and Girls Club and the school district. It is now the single largest venue on the coast for any kind of meeting. And in fact, Congresswoman Spear had her town hall meeting, the largest one she had all last year. So we're very proud of that facility, not to mention it has great for basketball. We've had our graduations there. It's a great all-purpose facility. On the bottom left is our new track and field up at the high school, which we just opened in time to watch our children do a fine job of beating Cappuccino High School, which was a great night, and what a great field it is. And on the right is the opening of the first phase of Hatch Elementary, which began this fall in grades 1 through 5, are now in the brand new remodeled buildings at Hatch. If you haven't been there, you should go over and check it out. We will have a more formal open house a little bit later this fall as we settle everybody in. So we have to teach, learn, and assess. As you know, the California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress, the CASP, is required by the state and the feds to be given in our classrooms grades 3 through 8, and then again in grades 11. But frankly, the CASP does not tell us anywhere near enough information about our students so that we can make effective and well-educated children. So we're going to use a variety of tools, and we do use a variety of tools to assess the progress of our children. And tonight I want to show you some of those tools and how our kids are doing. So one of the most critical functions of this district is literacy. And frankly, if we are not sending kids out of the district literate, we have failed. It's just that simple. San Mateo County, along with Silicon Valley Community Foundation, our Cabrillo Ed Foundation was critical in this, in the formation of something called the Big Lift. The objective of the Big Lift is that by the end of 3rd grade, 80% of all students will be reading on grade level. I bring you the Cabrillo data on this aspect, and as you can see, 53% of our students at this time are now reading on grade level. Yes, we have improved. Are we there yet? No. Do we need to improve on this? Absolutely. So these are the interventions and steps the district is taking. We are having a very strong professional development this year, and it is heavily focused on what we call first best instruction. So under first best instruction, approximately 80% of our kids should be reading on their grade level and should make adequate progress. For those who are not, we are offering small group interventions by credentialed reading intervention teachers in order to help students progress forward. We are also offering technology-based reading interventions, which not only can be used in the classrooms, but can be used extended day, extended year. They can be used at home. They can be accessed almost anywhere by kids. And you heard from Joy tonight about our summer school programs, which are known as extended year, and then our after-school interventions, which are also called extended day. So they all are laser-like focused on making sure that we achieve our reading benchmarks and we have our kids literate. So I'd like to also talk to you, not only do we handle the intellectual development of our students, we also handle their social emotional awareness and growth as well. In order to do this, we do a district climate survey every single year. It is given to students in grades 6 through 12, and to be technically correct, we've added 5th grade as well. So now it's in grades 5 through 12. On the left, on the data you see, is Cunha Intermediate School, and on the right is Half Moon Bay High School. One of the great parts about the survey that we choose to administer to our students is we can compare ourselves to the nation and see how our kids and the rest of the nation kids stack up. So in the left data, which is Cunha, you will see that Cunha is in the 60th percentile compared to the nation on our overall climate at the school. And at Half Moon Bay High School, they are in the 70th percentile. This is still not good enough. We need to make sure that our kids feel that our school climate is where they belong and that they are capable of being there and respected and fitting in to the school atmosphere. So what can we do? First of all, we have to make sure we maintain classes and opportunities for students to be actively involved in the governance of their own schools. Students need to feel connected to the schools they are involved with, and we need to continue to offer a wide variety of classes and after-school programs and student councils and all the things that let them have a voice in their own development. Second, we need to continue to our focus and development of students in the core areas of empathy and kindness. Not only do we need to model this for our students, but we need to teach it to them every single day. We need to continue with our positive behavior intervention and support programs, which enable our students to be able to understand that if you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. We continue to move forward. We use it as a learning and teaching opportunity for growth in our children. And finally, we need to continue our expansion of student-based services. These are our group and individual supports for our students, their parents, and now also available for our faculty and staff. We measure attendance rates, suspension rates, expulsion rates, dropout rates, and graduation rates. These are absolutely critical factors, and we need to be watching them all the time. As you can see, our attendance rates have improved. Our suspension and expulsion rates we are particularly proud of. They consistently decline. They are at a point now that compared to the county and state, they are far superior to both county and state data. We need to now maintain them right where they are. Our dropout rate continues to decline. It will be great when we watch that reach those less than numbers that our expulsions and suspension rates are at, and our graduation rate continues to improve. And once again, we still have room for improvement in all of these areas, except maybe expulsions and suspensions, where we're going to try and keep them the way they are. So what will we do, and how do you keep those great numbers great? One, we have to continue to be able to offer a wide variety of classes, such as advanced placement classes, career technical pathways, and early college, and all kinds of classes that let students have a taste of what the real world is waiting for them, and let them actively engage in activities that develop the necessary skills they will need for success. Second, we need to continue to support our first generation post-secondary education students with our advancement via individual determination, or AVID programs as they're known, to make sure that these students receive the support they need to carry through their dreams. We need to increase and expand our student-based wellness services. We are currently at 5 times the capacity that we had when I came to you 2 years ago to begin these conversations. And by the time we are done, we should be anywhere from 8 to 9 times our capacity. So we're very thrilled, and we continue to be working hard on that. And again, that is designed for not only students, but also our staff and our parent outreach as well. And then finally, and I think one of the most fundamental of them all, any student that enters Cabrillo Unified School District in kindergarten who is an English learning student, barring special circumstances, and there are a couple, by the end of 5th grade should be reclassifying. It is essential and a fundamental equity issue that these students are able to access wide and full range of courses available in middle and high school, which are where kids often develop the interests and passions that will guide their careers for years to come. Based on all of the evidence and data that you've seen so far, and Joy had it up here, we came up with 4 goals. These goals were created by many, many meetings with parents, with our community, with our faculty, with our staff, and data, always driven by the data from our students themselves. So what's our first goal? All students shall have the necessary academic skills so they are college and career ready. There shall be a particular focus on literacy and reclassification of the district English learner students. That is the fundamental mission of Cabrillo Unified, is to produce literate students. As I said, if they leave us not literate, we have failed. Goal 2, increase the percentage of students who are engaged in curriculum that prepares them to be college and career ready. These are our emphasis in our advanced placement classes, our career technical pathways. We've gone from 1 to 5 career technical pathways, very exciting, and our early college coursework, which I'm going to address here in just a minute because it's worthy of a second mention. Our third goal, implement a stakeholder communication plan to support parental involvement with regular updates. Parents are our allies, our partners. We just cannot and will not be able to do this without them. They are so fantastic on this coast side. They are so engaged. We need to make sure there is strong two-way communication between our parents and ourselves, because we all got to get together to get this done. It takes a village, and we're the village. And finally, goal 4, create a positive school climate where students feel safe and supported. If a child is coming to one of our schools and they are frightened that they are not safe on one of our campus and they do not feel welcome for some reason, then all of this great learning cannot take place. So we support our students in a number of programs. First, as you heard, even before kindergarten, we begin with the big lift. So we bring students in even before kindergarten, get them ready to go, start to get their social emotional skills. One thing I must emphasize, this district does not lose sight that an educated child is not just a kid who knows about mathematics, English language arts, science, or social studies. There is a strong social and emotional component to those children, and we cannot neglect that through the education system. We also have our AVID program, so our Advancement by Individual Determination will pick up students to help our first-generation college goers and post-secondary education children to make sure their dreams come true. Our active intervention systems, making sure that kids who are struggling get that intervention they need quickly, very quickly, so it doesn't become a larger problem. Our extended day, extended year programs, our field trips, all of the enrichment activities that our students have, and fundamentally a wide variety of coursework so that we can develop the interest of all of our students. I want to take a minute to single early college out. Early college is a program that is under development and just getting started here in the district. It has been developed, Cabrillo Unified School District, along with the San Mateo Community College District and actively through the College of San Mateo. The objective of early college, when it is complete, is that students entering Half Moon Bay High School 5 years later will exit with a high school diploma and an associate's degree. So a 2-year degree. One of the big blocking factors that has had for kids not being able to do this has been the fact that they go to junior college. You can tell how old I am. I just called it junior college, community college, and they're not even finishing in 5 and 6 years. This particular program is designed to ensure that at the end of 5 years, there is an associate's degree for that student. If they choose to transfer to the University of California system, all course credits go with them. I should also emphasize in the 5-year program, it is free because they would stay enrolled in Cabrillo Unified. This is the dual coursework that the governor just has approved over the last few years, and so there is no tuition for students who are in the dual enrollment. So we seek to address financial issues. We seek to address transportation issues, which we will. We will address also, one of the big ones we're working with the state on right now is how to feed children as they go through this. As children graduate high school, they're no longer eligible for the free and reduced programs we have for them here. This is a major issue, and we are working with the state now to be able to solve it through the early college program. So watch for this one to continue to develop. We already have the first courses into the high school. This year we add history. And then next year, we are already speaking to the college on adding at least 3 or 4 more major course offerings. So what are the challenges of the district? So as you can see from this graph, this is our enrollment graph, and it's going down. And if we take a look at this graph a little bit further, the district receives about $8,000 per student that attends. This district is paid on the number of students that attend. A quick and dirty calculation from this says the district has lost about $750,000 in revenue over a 2-year period. Now, it will hit us not quite as hard right away because when we do our budgeting purposes, we're allowed to take the higher of 2 revenue years. But you can see it's coming. On top of that, we have the increasing cost of pension for both STRs, are classified, STRs are credentialed, PERS are classified, and management as well. Add to that the increasing health care. And we have a major challenge facing this district. However, we have strong allies, and it is this community that lets us get this done. Measure S, the $81 million bond passed by this community in 2012, and you can see the progress that we've made on bringing our facilities into the 21st century and having them ready for our students. I might mention, not in the pretty pictures, but 2 other things Measure S produced. One, all of the devices that are now in our schools that allow our students to have computer access, the fact that we will be able to do a refresh cycle, and that we're also contemplating some very exciting things with the devices for our middle and high school students. And then Measure B, which is the production of approximately 1.6 to sometimes $1.8 million of revenue that this district uses to ensure, 1, that all of its schools stay open, number 2, that we are able to give those interventions and programs that our students so desperately need. And 3, that we keep the class sizes, particularly in our lower elementary, small so that those kids get access to our teachers. Thank you, community. We can't do this without you in these 2 major measures. Add on top of that the support of our PTOs, SIPA, our school foundations, boosters, and I apologize if I've forgotten anyone, but all of these organizations that raise funds for use in our local schools, those of our community service organizations, Rotary and AAUW, that not only produce scholarship, but also produce just pure manpower and time. Then our Cabrillo Education Foundation and Coastside Futures, both of our partners in district-wide initiatives, and Coastside Futures dedicated that all of our students shall receive what they need to get their post-secondary education. And frankly, the thousands upon thousands of parent volunteer hours. It is just staggering to see the effort that this community puts into its schools, and it's something the community should be tremendously proud of. So when I end this presentation, I'd like to add a couple of thoughts of my own about the future of Cabrillo Unified. I see us living in an area of innovation, offering opportunities for our students to work in one of the most successful and thriving economies in the world. Our students are creative and they are ambitious. Our community supports us. When we ask, they give and give and give. The district is very rich in resources, despite the fact that the state continues to underfund us and frankly will continue to underfund us. However, with the continued support of our community through the countless, both community-wide, voter-wide, and all of the initiatives, and all of us frankly coming together, realizing it takes a village, we know that the future of this district looks bright, and we will be here to ensure that the hopes and dreams of these youngsters come true. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Appreciate that. Any questions, comments, discussion from the board?
Yes. Jane, thanks for putting this together. I think, historically, there can just be it's almost impossible to understand, especially for the public, what's going on in this district. This is a relatively easily consumable and I think earnest and honest assessment of where we're strong and where we have our challenges, and something that we can continue to follow year over year, which I know is your expectation as well. So I know this was a lot of work, so but it's important. So many good things, and we could talk about this for hours. One of the things, and Joy, it's to you as well, as we look at the 3rd grade reading benchmark, and nice increase, 5%, that's great, but we've got this 80% goal, and I know we've got some big lift CEF folks in the room, but what do you really see, is it a 10-year journey, a 5-year journey, longer, to get to that goal, just relative to funding and the demographics of the community, and new data that you've been looking at for the last couple of years for the first time? Help us get our arms around that a little bit more.
So a lot of this, it just depends on how brutal the state starts getting to us again. Assuming we can keep class sizes small, assuming we can continue to afford the reading intervention supports that we have, frankly, we'd like to even get more support. So we're actually getting rate limited right now by the fact that there's some more interventions we'd like to do. We just can't afford to at this point. But I do not have a feeling, I feel like 5% in an improvement is not unreasonable to expect every single year. And so if we're at, where were we at, 50,
53 right now.
53, so it's going to be a number of years before we're at 86, yeah. So it's 6. You know, and I think that's assuming we don't take any massive hits from that. You know, that assumes that we can still continue our summer work. That assumes we can continue our after-school programs. That assumes we can keep our technology up and out there with the kids so that they can do programs like Lexia, which is an intervention reading program. All of that assumes we can maintain the effort that we have. It assumes that we can continue to attract and retain probably the most valuable asset that has to go in the middle is our teachers. I mean, all of this other stuff I talked to you about is great, but we need to make sure we've just got the very best in those classrooms and that we are capable of making sure they stay with us and grow with us and that they're happy with us. And that, I mean, we know they love the kids and we know they're great teachers. And we just got to make sure that we've got conditions for them that they can just do their thing with those kids.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Kirk, you were sighing.
Well,
No?
there's just so much to say. Just again, thank you very much for a clear summary. And I think it is truly amazing what this district accomplishes with the revenue it gets from the state, which is miserable. But the wonderful contributions of our community are what give us the strength and the ability to really make beautiful things happen here. And I think the future looks bright. I would love to hear you tell me that if we did this, we'd have a 20% increase in reading ability in 1 year, every year, till we were at 95. But if you come up with a way to do that, please tell us, because I'll beat the drum. Okay? That's the deal. Thank you.
Just say a personal thank you to Jane for you and your leadership to make this happen. You guys make it look so easy and effortless, and I think it's really exciting to see the incredible team kind of as I've onboarded and gotten to know everybody better over the last several months. What a phenomenal group of people we have at the helm here at the district, in our schools. It's just so encouraging to me that we are really moving the ship in the right direction. I think you so eloquently summarized it here and make it look so easy, because this is like so hard, and it's so clear that it's so hard, and you guys don't give up and you don't let it go, and it's just encouraging. So thank you to that, and echoing the statements as well about our phenomenal community from CEF, from the parent organizations. It's every single day you turn, as you said, and it's like somebody's doing something creative, new, innovative, or old, boring, and the same, but it has to get done. But that willingness of the community to really work together with their hearts and their minds and their souls and everything in it to make it happen for these kids is really terrific to see. So thank you very much.
Just want to say again, thank you, Jane and Joy and Crystal and all of our administrative staff for this presentation, and Jane in particular for presenting it and pulling it together and having the idea a year ago of having this kind of wrap up. And I think that it really, in the time that I've been on the board, which is 7 years now, it dovetails nicely with also the new state requirements under the LCAP, or our Strategic Education Plan goals, which were mentioned in this report. This kind of wrap around of mentioning what we're doing, putting that out to our community in terms of what we're doing, and then coming back to the process in January of going back to our parents and our teachers and our students and saying, what can we do better? What can we do different? How do we improve this? Included in that, of course, is our climate survey, which Jane brought to us several years ago, and so we have this consistency going year to year where we can look at our progress, we can decide what direction we need to go, and we can emphasize these points and have a really clear presentation of where we're going. So I really appreciate this, not just for tonight and what it shows for the district and where it is right now, but for part of the continuum that we've been on over the last couple of years, and I look forward to seeing where it goes in the future as well. And I will just make one more plug on the funding issue. $8,000 per student. Districts over the hill average around $15,000, $16,000, $17,000 per student because their local property taxes are higher than ours, and the state does not make up that difference. We have such an amazing community and the kinds of fundraising that is done, our parcel taxes, our bonds. We need more of that. We cannot rely upon the state to help us make up that difference and provide all these interventions that are necessary for our students. So thank you, and we might need more.
And that takes us,
Changing subjects, to item 12, or discussion items. Discuss the facility use rate schedule for CUSD. Is that going to be you, Jane, or Crystal? I know you're both on. Okay.
Yes. Do you want me to go ahead and take that?
Okay.
A few months ago, I think back in June, we brought as a discussion item for direction from the board to look and start to work on a new fee schedule for when community groups, nonprofit and profit request to use our facilities. So tonight I bring to the table for discussion a new fee schedule that's in draft form right now, that's attached for discussion, so we can figure out what direction we want to move this year and moving forward.
Thank you, Crystal and Jane. Just a little bit of context on this, at least from my point of view. As I said, I've been on the board for 7 years. Right before I got on the board was when we first passed our parcel tax initiative, Measure E, which then became Measure B. I went to one of those first board meetings right after we had passed, and we had previous to that done an assessment of all of the costs of maintaining our facilities, and the district at the time had come up with a new use fee structure that was significantly higher in an attempt to kind of recoup the cost given the cutbacks the states was doing at the time. After our parcel tax passed, the board at that time, I was not on it, I hadn't even yet decided I was running, decided to then pull the fees back to a lower amount as well. It has then since been still an issue in terms of the use of our facilities by community groups, by PTOs, by nonprofits, by extracurricular activities after school. We really are, to some degree, the main building and use facility in this community. There are not a lot of other spaces that you can rent for, you know, dance recitals, music recitals, Boy Scouts, other kinds of events that really do benefit the enrichment of our children. So I just want to give a little context for that and then open it up to discussion. Also, just real quick on the note that Kim Hines was not able to be here tonight due to personal and business travel. She did want me to say that she is fully supportive of a policy that would allow for this use of our facilities by community groups that are benefiting youth, but at the same time be cognizant of what are kind of the exact costs in terms of making sure that there is, you know, equity, and also that we're being very clear about what our janitorial costs or other kinds of costs are. So she just wanted me to reiterate that. So any further, let's open it up to discussion. Does anybody want to?
So I have a couple of questions. I'm glad we're addressing this and trying to sort it out. I think there is a lot of confusion on behalf of the users or the people that incur these costs. Has been over the years, and it's very incumbent upon us to clarify exactly what kind of activities should be looked at as a school function, including some extracurricular activities which are school functions, and it's more clear if it's a dance recital by a commercial entity or something like that. And that our goal is to recover the actual costs for things that are, if they're a school function, there should be a fund that these costs can be charged to so that they're on the books as something, not just we're not going to do anything because we need to know what the actual cost would be for everybody, and then say, well, because this is a school function, it isn't billed, so that other people understand, well, for them to do this, it costs this, but for a school function, it actually doesn't have a cost, but this would be the overall cost. You know, we can't give, this is a public institution, we can't give our services away, we can't incur heavy costs just because we would like to be generous to the community. I mean, there has to be some limits somewhere, so we have to do this, and I think it's very critical that we communicate as openly as possible what are the criteria for what gets actually billed as a cost. The costs are real. If a custodian has to come and unlock or clean up a facility, that's a real thing, and there may be minimum time, all the union rules apply. And so there are certain costs that are going to be incurred, and that is incurred regardless of whether that's a school function or a non-school function. So we need to know, and people need to know ahead of time, this is not a school function, so you will be billed. But also we need to have it in black and white, that these are the actual costs that we're absorbing because it's a school function. If it's on a weekend or outside of normal work hours, whatever. Because I think a lot of the concern from people I've talked to in the community is that, well, I don't know why I'm being charged this and they're not, and why are we being charged this? It's a school event, isn't it? If it's an extension of a class thing. So there's a lot of grumbling in the community about it. There always has been, and it's our onus to make it as clear as possible. And I think our goal is equitable.
So the way that the new structure is proposed, one, the district has moved to an actual software, online civic permits that allows anybody who creates a login to see all of our facilities that are available, and the dates and times that they're available and so forth. And so this is also a push to be able to create that transparency so that everyone who logs on can see what is available, how much it costs, and so forth. So with this update of the policy, it does specify and brings the custodial costs out and identifies them as direct costs, because that actually is a cost that's incurred at that time through a lot of it's union contracts, because a lot of these activities occur on weekends. We do not have employees that work on weekends, so there's a 2-hour minimum callback, there's overtime, and so forth. So those costs have always been explained to the end user, but they're not like really advertised up front. So we're trying to move that to where it's upfront, so you know just the average cost of a custodian is $50 an hour if it's on a weekend for a 2-hour minimum. What has always been, what in my opinion, the confusion is where it goes for the facility use cost. And so the use cost is different than the direct cost. The direct cost is custodian, staff, and actual like labor for salaries. The use cost is what is legally school districts can charge for the civic permits law, so that you can actually use facilities to help pay for our deferred maintenance. And that is where our community really sits in an awkward spot, because we don't have any other community facilities. I mean, the school district is just all we have. And they all are our kids. So how do you so we've gone from PTO to PTO sponsored, and it's still, those lines are a little blurred. So that's why actually I present some clearer language in there, and some opportunities to get those types of fees possibly waived. But the direct cost will stand, because that is an actual cost, as you said, Dr. Reamer, to the school district.
Can I just clarify real quick? Direct costs currently, under our current structure, are also charged on top of the use fees.
Correct.
Is it really clear when folks apply that the direct costs are kind of set ahead of time? They're not surprise costs at the end, or how is that?
I don't think that, from my interaction with the community groups, through my direct interaction, then also through staff and people that I serve with on the same team, those costs are clear. They may not agree with them, or we're only going to be there for a half hour. Why do I have to pay for 2 hours? And so we definitely have to explain that it's a minimum 2-hour call-in,
Sure.
and so forth. But for the most part, I do feel that that's fairly clear.
Okay.
So the system you are talking about, the new system, should be able to allow somebody to model, well, I'm going to be using this for 5 days or for 20 sessions or whatever it is, so they can predict their costs. And there are those costs that are not negotiable, that is, they're fixed, like the 2-hour minimum. And there's things that maybe there's a cafeteria stuff, well, we'd like this, but we don't want that, so we don't need to pay for it. And to clarify what they have a choice in, what they do not, and allow them to sort of predict what the bill's going to be, like a restaurant, right?
Yes, very
I
a la
think
carte.
that would be great, because then I think you say, well, these are the costs, and this is what it's going to cost you. Do you want to use the facility or not? And, it's fair, and we have to recover some of our costs. But also this definition of, well, no, you do or do not qualify for, a waiver, or maybe there's a grant system for requesting a waiver based on whatever. I think these sort of measures should be, just so it's all very transparent, and people can understand what they're getting into, what they're buying.
And so just to clarify, I think the main change that we're looking at right now, school-sponsored organizations have always kind of only paid direct costs, or not always, but in the last couple of years since we made that change. So what we're adding now is that youth-oriented community or co-site organizations may submit a waiver for facility use fees. So they will still pay the direct cost, but they also would then get the facilities for free without having to pay the actual use fees that are listed above, which are the deferred maintenance and the longer-term costs of our facilities.
Right. And the conditions for that waiver really are to perform all access for the activities. So whatever activity, whether that be dance or a special language class or something, that there are scholarship opportunities for all students, because a lot of those functions are paying functions, and there is profit there without us getting into what is reasonable and not reasonable.
Sure.
That all of our students have access to these programs, so that if there are opportunities for scholarships, then this organization would be able to file a waiver for the use fees.
So are the criteria for the waiver something that you have already created, or if we say okay to this, then you will go forward and create those criteria?
Correct.
If I can ask, so what is it clear what is school-related or extracurricular? For example, if the football team practices on the weekend and uses a locker room, and the custodian has to come and clean the locker room, that's considered a school activity.
Correct.
If a drama group is practicing for their spring musical, is that a school activity?
Yes.
Okay. But there's still costs involved.
There could be still costs, and we've worked those out because, again, we're depending on the activity and the level of custodian use that was required on the weekend, we try to look at that, the length of time that they're here, what buildings they're used, especially the bathrooms. You really just cannot if bathrooms are actively used, let them go until Monday to be cleaned, right? So, but we try to be reasonable with those activities. Those are all school-related activities. We have a lot of after-school activities that are done by private groups for additional language or music, clubs that are really, but they're focused outside of our schools, and not PTO sponsored. So we have the high school MU is used for dance recitals from a private co-site group. So that would be one of those examples.
And in that example, there is some auxiliary equipment that's used that belongs to the school and undergoes wear and tear. And those costs of replacing and repairing things should somehow be in the formula so that the fees reflect the potential need to replace things that are broken or whatever. Policy should be clear on that, because some of these things have a limited lifetime, some are fragile and can get broken, but as I understand it, there really isn't a formula or a clear policy on how these things get replaced. Yes, you can use this, be it a microphone, spotlight, who pays $300 to replace the lamp and that if it burns out, this kind of thing. We ought to be thinking about that, because it is a real cost, just as is bringing in a custodian to clean a restroom, and they should be built into that.
And we can't, that's why presenting this language, I tried to create some flexibility that, at least because in the current policy, there is no flexibility. It's nonprofit, for-profit, it is very, so I wanted to create the opportunity to actually bring the groups and have the discussion through the waiver process, whether that be the scholarships, and then what they're doing. Because, if we get a group that wants to do a lock-in, so they have like this overnight function in the event center. Please don't get any ideas, but, and we're running power and so forth like that. The district needs to recoup a cost like that. And so that situation would be very different than possibly, using a classroom to teach language after school for a quarter of the year or something. So this just language allows that flexibility so that people do feel like they're being heard, and then they can make their case and see what they're eligible for, knowing that the only opportunity for flexibility is within the use fee and not the direct cost for services.
Sure. Yeah, it would be really helpful.
Although it sounds like you were saying that there's some flexibility in direct costs in terms of how you decide to, how you decide to decide about what the supplies are, say. So direct costs include supplies. It sounds like what Kirk is saying is that supplies maybe should be some of the technology that's used if it wears down.
Yes.
And then you could make an analysis in that direct cost section and say, you're going to be using this for this number of hours, we're going to charge you a small fee and direct cost for that.
Yes.
So there is some negotiation
Yes,
within
and
direct
that's
costs.
why the language is a little
Whereas
vague.
the other
when it
one
comes
has more to
that,
do
yeah.
with, it seems like the waiver of the fees really shouldn't be related to the direct cost, but should be related to simply what is your youth-oriented purpose, and are you providing that enough access to people? And that is where that discretion comes in.
Yes.
Am I understanding the two
Yes,
prongs?
and that is why I hope that this is clear. School-sponsored organizations using district facilities shall not pay. Okay, so that addresses where we have, what we currently have. The youth-oriented community co-site organizations may submit a waiver for facility use fees. So the direct fees definition is below that. Direct costs are costs incurred by the district, and that also includes supplies, utilities, custodial services, and any salaries or services. So those would encompass there, and that would allow us the flexibility for the power if we were to do, say, a
Folks
lock-in.
were using it for a longer period of time, under
Absolutely.
different hours, if there seemed to be an excessive use.
A setup fee, tear down fee.
Right, so it sounds like in terms of direct costs, under both of these, there's going to need to be a little bit more of a detailed explanation so that people coming can understand why there might be some differences in cost for different groups.
Okay.
But it seems like that's important because the point has been made by Kim and some of her comments that what if one event requires extra cleaning beyond the 2 hours and another event doesn't, then there will be a difference in direct costs.
Yeah.
And we should have a way to be able to kind of calculate that and assess that.
And there's also, I think people have often requested, well, we'll clean the room.
Yeah.
And we need to be clear. If there are work rules that forbid that, that needs to be made clear.
If there are union rules.
Absolutely.
That we're covered, it does, yeah. It,
Yes.
And maybe liability as well.
Yeah, there is a liability, and especially with the event center, we know that was a very expensive facility, and to cover those floors, because it is such a large facility, but when we want to have meetings in there, we have to cover the floors, and that is extremely labor intensive. I mean, you were talking several hours of multiple people to cover and uncover those floors and to put back to its original state, so.
Sure. I think it's really worth the investment of time in this because it's only going to get more complex going forward. And anticipating what those hidden costs are key to our, basically the district's overall satisfaction with this so that the wear and tear on things can be anticipated, assessed, and covered to the extent that it's possible.
How are you two both, and either of you have had any comments? It's a discussion, some kind of consensus. There's no action that's required, but we will be providing direction to Jane and Chris.
Yeah, I think you guys have a great point stated, we want to minimize ambiguity. And I think that's the message from both of you, and I think there's some fine tuning, which you already said, is relative to the ability to submit a waiver, to waive the fees, clear criteria so everybody knows what they are. I think that's probably the biggest thing I'm seeing here is a gap, as another gap that I would want to see. But to me, the rates seem frankly incredibly fair. The community.
Use fees are,
What's that?
the use fees are.
Yes.
Yeah, the use rates, yeah.
Yeah, they're
Especially
entirely
the
reasonable.
event center, and so I think it's.
Absolutely. I mean, when we look at
We're creating
we compare it to
accessibility
IDS
with
Hall
this-
or something, I mean,
Right.
we're a lot
Yeah.
lower than the other.
Yeah, I feel like we're creating more accessibility with these very reasonable fees. I mean, that is okay.
Yeah, and we want them to be.
Yes, of course, yeah.
Yeah, I'll just say, I agree, I think it's a good solid proposal with the fine tuning around the communication. Sounds like the online tool is gonna help a lot with that too, because there are those opportunities to
Yeah, that's great.
have things highlighted for our full policy around like explanations around the labor law, agreements and all that kind of stuff. So I think if that online tool is designed well, which I'm sure will be, it's an opportunity to put in, to keep things simple for, let's say, the average user perhaps, but then also have additional information available for context and further explanation if people want to know, like a little bit more detail, what is the hourly rate for custodian, what, minimum 2 hours, like, so that all that kind of stuff is available to the power users, let's say. And I think that should streamline things. So thank you.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that I'm in support of what's being proposed here in terms of the additional waiver for the youth-oriented community coast-side organizations. I do think that we should be careful with direct costs, that they're truly direct costs, that they're not an attempt to get back that long-term use of our building, because I think that that was what was attempted with the higher fees, and that's, I feel like, what we're trying to move against. So that's just my only difference there. But again, it sounds like we need to have further explanation into what the criteria are for the waivers, as well as kind of some explanation of direct costs. So perhaps this could be brought again when Kim is also here to be part of the discussion in terms of a little bit more detail. Whether, I know we don't need to approve it, but or maybe just a presentation on what you're looking at, and if you have any concerns or questions, I don't know, we could figure out how to present it again. But
It is a very hot topic, and so definitely, I don't want to, I was really trying to get this, just up and running for the current school year and stuff, because we have groups that are trying to book and that are questioning the cost of the use fees, not the direct costs. And so, they were aware it was coming to the board and so forth, so.
Well, I think, I would personally feel okay with you going ahead and saying, okay, we're not charging use fees for this thing, we've got the waiver. I just am saying that I would be interested, at least personally, in seeing what the waiver and what the direct costs would be, not that we'd necessarily change it all, but again, you could just let me know individually if other board members have no interest in seeing.
I'd like to see the tool. If you
Okay.
generate
So you'd like to see the tool?
an interactive
Okay.
tool for a user to try to estimate what their cost would be to use it, I'd like to see that.
I could do a quick presentation and bring that back to the board.
Yep, okay. But are we all kind of in support of that? I just want to kind of make sure it's just, because it is a discussion, I didn't know we don't have to fully approve of that. Are we okay with her implementing it sooner, before we have those criteria?
I think it's progress.
I mean, she'll establish them, we just won't necessarily know what they are, because we won't have had another board meeting by then.
I trust.
Yes.
There's a certain level of
Yes.
reasonableness over there on that side.
But are you saying you shouldn't use this price schedule and people have had concerns about it? Is that what you said back on topic? Did I follow that correctly?
Yes. People do not want to pay the use fee.
At all. I mean,
Well,
well, you're right, I mean, this is per hour.
Thank you. That's
So
what
it's
I was trying to-
107, so the high school gym is $170 per hour. If you're looking at an 8-hour production, you're increasing your costs 1,000 plus. For a small, dance school or music school, that might make the difference between them performing there or not.
But it's probably cheaper than commercials.
There are no commercials around, and it is cheaper then, definitely. But what we're talking about is access. We're talking about what on the coast, and we are the facility place. We have the majority of facilities. Although I did just read an article that the city is also reducing their fees for TEDx centers, so maybe there will be more facilities available for reduced fees as well for those groups. We are okay with that. If folks want to use other facilities,
Yes.
that's okay too.
Yeah.
But I personally think it'd be great to begin this, and then if there's need for some, at least to see what happens and what the criteria look like, we have to look at it again or individually.
Absolutely. I think I will do well in that direction.
Okay, thank you, Crystal and Jane, for bringing this back to us. That brings us to item 13, board member communications. Who would like to begin? Okay.
I just want to say, I did enjoy making it to one back-to-school night, which was at Hatch, and just seeing all the new faces and the brand-new polished, bright site, which is just wonderful. And I know, I see you back there, Martha. Yeah, your time is coming. All the elementaries are going to look this bright and shiny. They will. They will. It's coming. And it's so wonderful to have it finally happened at Hatch. And yeah, well, you guys got some a few years back, but yeah, we're not completely forgetting about you, John. But anyway, it is coming to all the schools as soon as we can, and as wonderfully as we can. And Hatch just looks beautiful. And I don't know if is it 80 years old? How old is that building?
Yeah.
It's quite a facelift. And it makes you proud to drive by and see it, the profile of it as you drive by on the highway or just anywhere you spot it. It just looks so different, so modern, if that's a word. But yeah, it's great. And so that's all I have to say. Thank you.
First, I'd like to start by, again, thanking Jane and her team for the very clear announcement she made following the DACA announcement a couple of weeks ago. Very clear, unambiguous response to the announcement of the federal administration. Who knows what will happen now, because things are seesawing back and forth, but nonetheless, there does remain a high degree of uncertainty within our community. Thanks also to Martha and Cesar for the wonderful words of the vigil at the church a couple weeks ago as well. Last week, seems like a couple weeks ago. So I think it's so critical for all of us now more than ever, and you speak to this continually, Jane, that we work together, make our schools open, inviting, especially to kids that right now are feeling vulnerable. We make things available in the relevant languages, Spanish and English, culturally sensitive, like more than ever. Now's the time to make sure we're making these kids and their families feel really safe and welcome and included. So thank you for all of that. I've been enjoying over the last several weeks getting to know our new leadership at Hatch and at Cunha. It's been a lot of fun spending time there, partly as a parent and as well as the board representative to these schools as well. So great things going on. I'm so thrilled to have all three of you on board at the helm of these schools, and I see nothing but great work and great progress coming for our kids there. So thank you to you guys. On that, it's my little one. He can wait. So, yeah, then had the joy of attending with Jane last night the City Council's community meeting on cannabis regulations, which was very exciting and interesting. So more to come on that, but certainly, we haven't even had the opportunity to discuss as a board where we stand on things, mostly just kind of coming up to speed the what's happening in the state and in the city, but surely more to come there in collaboration with the city. Yeah, so that's it then.
Going back to your state of the district, you talked about the teachers. And I was really struck tonight by Kathy Wall's communication, and Sean's has certainly been very positive, but it was pretty all-encompassing about the state of the relationship. Jane, your efforts, going back to Kurt, your comment about how thrilled she was with the school, and going back to the State of the Union, is retention and acquisition of good teachers is what's going to make all of this successful, by all this, these goals that we have in front of us. And we've done some good things with money and paying teachers more money, just flat out, we got to pay them more, right? And we're doing the best we can, but I think the other part of it is that collaborative culture that, we've got 7 years, Frey and I, and Kurt, you're longer than that. We didn't have that, right? There was distrust, mistrust, lack of communication, lack of earnestness, and we've come a long way, and I just encourage both unions and the district to continue to assume positive intent, communicate clearly. We don't always going to agree on everything, but it is only through that kind of continued behavior and building on what we've done over the last, let's call it last 5 years. Tony really did a lot of work in this regard as well. That's going to get us where we need to go, because we're going to be able to outspend Palo Alto or those communities. I mean, that's numbers Freya talked about is just striking difference. So that gets to my second point. The board is considering another bond to get the rest of the work done that needs to be done for the district. Remember, I believe our wish list was $250 million, projects that needed to be done with different
different priority, but things people had wanted for good reason, and we passed $81 million. And construction costs, I believe we estimated 25% increase. It's far outstripped that. So those dollars, just because of what's happening with inflation, have reduced, right? So that's created some issues with what we wanted to do with some of the other schools. But we've heard the theme of thanks to the community for their generosity. I think from everybody here, the State of the Union, we will need more, and for good reason, and we'll continue to have committees that will assess how we're spending money and that we're doing it the right way. But I'd say tell the community, expect we're going to need some more help to continue to provide these children what they need to be successful in their lives. So that's it for me.
So I did attend 2 back-to-school nights, although not with my official hat on, but my parent hat. So it was a pleasure, John, to have one at the high school this year, and as well continuing to have one at Cunha. And so it's always wonderful to go there and see all of the excited teachers and the plans for the learning, and see all the excited parents and students as well. So I'm hoping that it seems like everybody's got off to a great start. Everybody's kind of used to what's going on, and we can all begin to get down to that exciting part of engaging children and making them excited about learning, and learning is fun, and this is a great place to be. So thank you to all the staff who are up and running and hopefully feeling comfortable and good about where they're at and where they're going. I just wanted to also reiterate Sophia's thanks to Jane for her response on the DACA and the Dreamers issues on a federal level, which can create fear amongst our population. And just want to remind everyone that the resolution that we passed back in January, of course, still stands. But even that resolution was really more a reiteration of what is the law of this land. We have the duty to educate every child who walks in our door, regardless of immigration status. We will not ask. We do not care. You are our children, and we will educate you. So we just want to keep sending that message out to our community members, because it is the truth of what we practice. It's also the law of the land. When you become a board member, you swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States, not the federal laws, not what President Trump decides. So that is what we are going to continue to do. And then I also want to just one more call out to the young girls who came tonight to speak. Again, it was not on topic. We cannot respond, and it really is an issue for the site to take on and to lead with, but such bravery to, such initiative to gather those signatures, to stand up in front of all of us and express their views. And that is really the beauty of our district, is that we can tap into that initiative, that democratic process. And that is, in itself, is that teaching moment where they can then become the next leaders. They can take that and feel that they have made a change in their life. They can feel that they've had a say, that they have been heard. And I think that if we can do that with these kinds of issues, it creates those real-life learning experiences. So again, kudos to those girls with the bravery that they had to stand up here and speak to us. So that's all.
Well said.
Okay, so I have 2 reports from 2 different schools. I'll start off with Fairlawn View. So Fairlawn View had an abundant number of returning and new parents to their back-to-school night, and we are gladly honored that the superintendent came as a special guest. We feel thankful that one recycled art piece made by a group of primary age students was also showcased on the same evening, and happily made it to the front page of the Half Moon Bay Review. In preparation of Continent Day, Miss Scarpacci, okay. Miss Scarpacci brought an international music group, the Golden Bow, to present a couple of assemblies to our students. And now I'll go to Half Moon Bay High School. Okay, so this September, Half Moon Bay High School has started a great school year. On the 6th of September, we had our back-to-school night, which was a success, and parents were greatly directed to their designated classes, thanks to the Half Moon Bay's leadership class and the Half Moon Bay cheerleaders. Next on September 8th, we had our first assembly, which is a welcome back assembly, and the spirit was everywhere. The assembly included a giant relay, cheerleading performance, theme reveals for homecoming, and so much more. That night of the assembly was our first football game at our new field, which was very exciting to have so many people in the community attend for our ribbon ceremony. And to make everything better, the football team had a huge winning of 52-0. And next month we will begin our preparation for having an amazing homecoming week and showing positivity during the weekend for Pumpkin Festival. Any questions or comments?
Thank you, Cesar.
You're welcome.
It was great to see you also up on stage at the back to school night. Superintendent.
So I was able to attend a number of the back-to-school night. I think I missed 2 this year, which is a first for me. But unfortunately, there were 2 at exactly the same time, and so I needed to go up. And I went to Fair Lawn View. My apologies, Hatch, for missing that one, but I did get to the TKK at Hatch. And my apologies also to the high school, but I needed to go and hear the city council talk about cannabis. So I was at that meeting. So ordinarily, we talk about a lot of, last month, we brought to you action that you took in order and to enable the district to refinance some of the existing bonds that we currently have. So when we do construction bonds or any money that the public entrusts to us, it's not just that we make sure that every dollar is spent in an appropriate fashion. That's highly important, and we have oversight committees that look at that. But it's also to make sure that as the investment continues to go on, that the public does not pay any more in financing that than absolutely necessary. So thus we monitor interest rates, we monitor climate conditions, and when we think we can refinance and save the public money, we do so. So I'm going to ask Crystal, because we've now done the bond refinance, to please tell us exactly what the savings was to the public.
So when you go and you sell bonds, you have their series. So back in 2012, when the $81 million was approved, we sold our first set of bonds, which we would call Series A. The interest that we were paying on those bonds from Series A were about 2.25% to 2.64%. And we had the ability, from watching the interest rates, to refinance to where the refinance on the bonds would be below 1% on the interest, which is an actual savings of just under 6% to our community. So we are pleased to have taken advantage of the low interest rate in this environment and to reduce the debt service payments just under 6% for our community. So it's huge. And we are constantly watching, like Superintendent Euster said, it's not just about how we spend this money, but where can we go back and save when we have lower interest rates and take advantage of the strong stock market right now.
Yes. Thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you, Jane.
It takes us to item 14, consent items. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4 plus 1? Great, it's approved. It takes us to item 15, action items. 15A, adopt resolution numbers 18-17, 19-17, 20-17, 21-17, and 22-17 for employees assigned on the basis of an education code provision. Jane?
Yes, so ordinarily, as you know, John Corey is our Assistant Superintendent of Pupil Personnel Services. We are definitely missing John and wish him a very quick and speedy recovery, but I'll pinch hit for him this evening. And so these are, we do this every single year. We have these extra periods that happen for certain types of instruction. And they're very odd kinds of instruction. And so these provisions allow us to be able to assign fully credentialed teachers into areas that are sometimes slightly out of their primary credential. And so it is not a question of students not receiving the finest in instruction. These teachers have done these things for many, many years. It's simply that the law requires us on these oddball periods to have this Ed Code waiver.
comments, questions, discussion? Oh, motion first. Motion to approve. Second? Any comments, questions, or discussion? Seeing none, it's a roll call vote. We'll start with you.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Passes 4 + 1 to 0. Takes us to item 15B, adopt resolution 23-17 approving GAN limit.
Yes. Each year by September 30th, governing boards shall adopt a resolution identifying the estimated appropriations related to how much money the district spends on expenditures for the preceding year to the current year, the current rollover year. So tonight, basically, this is a housekeeping resolution, ask you to adopt 2317 for the GAN limit.
Great, thank you, Crystal. Do I have a motion to approve? Second?
Second.
Any comments, questions, or discussion? Okay, seeing none, it's a resolution. Would you like to start, Cesar? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, passes 4 + 1 to 0. It takes us to item 15C, approve 2016-2017 unaudited actuals financial report.
As presented to you earlier this evening, I ask for you to approve the 16-17 audited actuals financial report.
Great, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second? Okay, any comments, questions, or discussions? We have already had the presentation of that opportunity, but any further?
Clear presentation. I have no questions.
Okay, all in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 4 + 1 to 0. That takes us to item 15D, approve lease-leaseback agreement contract with Block Construction. Crystal?
That's correct.
She's just keeping it.
I know, just keeping my mic on tonight. So the new law for the lease-leaseback, which is the desired mechanism for the district and our construction contracts that we do here at the district. The new law that went into effect January 1st, 2017, you'll see these contracts actually come back to the board in a couple different ways, a couple different times, actually as work gets underway, and it's just actually to meet the new statutes of the law. So tonight, you actually have a portion of the contract that covers like the general conditions that need to be approved, and then you'll get the facility lease and the site lease at another time. And then it will come back again, most likely for even a third time, depending on when the guaranteed max price is negotiated and we settle on an actual repair price for this project.
Appreciate you keeping us on track for the law. Do you have a motion to approve? A second? Any comments, questions, discussion?
No, so this is a pretty dynamic mechanism. I know there are complaints about it. It just seems like a wonderful way to do buildings, but
It absolutely is. It can be intimidating because there are several steps, but I mean, I fundamentally believe that this mechanism is the best way for districts to keep on track, to keep those change orders at bay, and to understand what the guaranteed max price of a project would cost. And there's always the opportunity to come in lower. So it's not that if you have this guaranteed max price, that's what you pay. There's still room for negotiation, and then there's still room to bring that price down within the project.
There's also the flexibility to choose our contractor based on other criteria besides just price, but quality.
Absolutely.
And
So we have those
efficiency.
rating
So we don't have those
systems now.
issues where
We
we
don't.
have had in the past, and we are currently in suit over regarding projects.
Well,
that
and
didn't
a lot of times,
weren't
depending
constructed
on the project, you know, when you're defining a scope and you're going out for a hard, low bid, if your scope, if, you know, you open that building and there's something wrong, then forget your price, right? So this really just allows for districts to maintain the utmost flexibility to make sure that we're spending the public dollars the way we need to be.
Great. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 4 + 1. And that takes us to item 16, which is future board agenda items. We will receive the report on Kings Mountain Elementary School, and according to our superintendent, we will also be having all the schools give a report this year. So that would be wonderful to hear throughout the year. We are going to receive our CAS testing results at the October one? I don't know, I'm asking.
Similar to last year, we embed that information within our local control accountability plan update for goal 1. So that should be coming up in, I think November was when we had it.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, it does not need to be a separate report. And our public hearing and approval of statement of assurances for textbooks and instruction. Approval of site plans, that is in October? Okay, and the approval of the quarterly report on Williams uniform complaints and approved policy maintenance updates, which we do often. Future events, dates, we have our Measure S Citizen Oversight Committee meeting, which will be on September 25th at 6:30. Just one more evidence of the way that we're trying to be as accountable to our community as possible in our bonds and other, in our facilities and management. October 3rd is the next Big Lift committee meeting at 3 p.m. in the district office. It's also the Chamber Education Committee meeting at 4 p.m. in the district office. There is no school on October 6th and October 9th. And we have no need to return to closed session, so do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. 4+1. Thank you all for being here.